So, biggest takeaway from the Gymshark event so far?
Yeah. So actually, I want to. I feel like a good thing to talk about would be the burnout.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you challenged me to do 100 pull-ups, and initially I didn't even think it was possible for me to do 100 pull-ups.
Yeah.
And so like when we started and we began doing it, at some point halfway through, I was like, holy crap, I can do this.
Yeah.
Right? And then at some point, it wasn't a question of whether I can do it or not. I just knew it was going to happen.
Yeah.
But then, because we're competitive, we were like, you know what? No, I want to one-up you. Like, all right, I did 101. I'm like, all right, I'm going to do 102.
Yeah.
And then we just kept pushing. We kept changing the rules of the game. We kept moving that finish line. And at some point, we decided, all right, 150. That's it, right? So it's like we didn't start with like we did start with defining what success is, but then we kept changing the rules of the game, and we kept moving the finish line.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of us do that in our own entrepreneurial journeys as well.
For sure.
And so I think it's so important to have a definitive, just have success defined, like what is success, and like how do you know when you hit it? Otherwise, you don't ever feel like, okay, like when is it enough? Right? Because then we push. We did 150. We did it. But then, like you said, we were just burned out for the next couple of days with regard to working out, right? And then we had to wait to like get back to it. Right? So I think that was like a big teaching moment that you actually just shared with me. So I guess talking a little bit more about that, I think would be cool as well.
I think it's like kind of crazy because we stepped into the gym thinking that we would do 100. We were like, hey, my workout routine consists of 100 pull-ups. And I told Irslan, you're doing 100 pull-ups because you're working out with me. Because I asked him prior, I was like, how hard do you go with your workouts? He's like, I go super hard, bro. I go super hard. I was like, all right, we'll see. We'll see, right? So we hit 100 pull-ups. And then right after we hit 100 pull-ups, Irslan did 101. This dude went one above what we defined as 100, right? So I was like, you know what? I can't let this dude beat me. All right? So this is where the dangerous game began, right? And I was talking to Irslan as we were reflecting just now on the couch. We were just like, isn't it so crazy how like I pushed Irslan to a higher standard, but because of the competitive nature between us, right? He did 101, I did 102, and then he's like, no, you can't beat me and all that stuff, right? Mind you, Irslan told me that the most he's ever done, like ever, is 30 pull-ups in a session. So think about that. 100 was a big stretch already, but because of our competitive nature, we kept on pushing each other forward and kept on pushing each other to that next level. But as we reflected, it's like now we're like so sore, bro. Like my forearms, my biceps, my abs, bro. My abs are sore from pull-ups. How does that even happen, bro? It's just like squeezing so hard, right? And I think it just goes to show that there's pros and cons to everything. And I think as you push to a higher standard, push to a higher level, right? Sometimes it could come with burnout and fatigue, right? That we're experiencing right now. And I think that applies to life, that applies to relationships, that applies to business, that applies to fitness, that applies to every aspect of life. There's going to be so many times where you might strive so much and try to hit this level, but you might burn out in the process, right? And we were talking about it, right? We were just talking about like how we need to be like well balanced in all areas of our lives. And it's good to push, but it's not good to push and like burn out, right? Because it's gonna set us back. Because a lot of the times, like even right now, like we're not hitting the gym because we're still so sore, right? From that moment. And I think it just goes to show that there's pros and cons to it, right? We hit a new level. We did, right? Let's freaking go. Like 150 pull-ups in a session. Who does that, bro? Who does that, right?
Some David Goggins.
For real. Like it's some crazy stuff. So like now we know we're capable of doing it, right? But the downside of pushing to that higher standard is, you know, everything that comes with it. The burnout, the fatigue, the setbacks, right? And it's just crazy, bro. Yeah, it's just crazy to reflect upon.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Like I was telling Irslan, every single time that I hit the gym, I hit 100 pull-ups, right? But now, because the standard is risen, right, I might go to the gym now and try to hit 110, 120, right, every single day until like I keep on inching forward and then hitting that 150 like it's nothing, right? And I feel like that's in terms of fitness, but in terms of business, it's the same way, right? You need to develop the consistency. You need to develop the skill sets. You need to develop like the marketing, the sales, the copywriting, like everything dialed in and just getting better every single day.
Yeah.
As you get better, like you're gonna notice so many improvements upon yourself, right? And as you set that higher standard for yourself, you're able to know like, hey, I'm capable of doing this. And I think belief is the number one thing that you got to have in any aspect of life if you want to reach that next level, right? And having that belief allows you to accomplish anything that you really set your mind to, because that was more of a mental game for us than a physical one, right? Because like there was times where we were like, dude, can we even do this anymore?
Yeah.
Like I was shaking, like my forearms, like I couldn't grab anything afterwards, but it was a mental game. And it really goes to show like how much you can really push and really stretch yourself outside your comfort zone to see what you're actually capable of doing, right? And I feel like this applies to pull-ups, but it actually inspires me to go home and, you know, go on a run, right? Because running is a mental game, because there's so many times where you might be running like 6 miles per hour, right? You know, it's like, and then next thing you know, you're tired, you want to stop. You want to quit. You want to throw in the towel. You want to decrease it back down to 3 because you're not able to handle it anymore. But you have to train your mind to be like, hey, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. It hurts, but keep going, right? And over time, as you develop that over time, you're going to be more consistent. And through that consistency, you're going to get stronger. You're going to get better. You're going to build more endurance. And then that's going to seem so easy later in the future, right? When you keep on training for the next 3 months, bro, if we started training for pull-ups for the next 3 months, dude, 150 would start being easy for us. You know what I'm saying? But because this was the first time we broke that standard for ourselves, right? It allows us to be like, dude, we're capable of doing this. Imagine if we started doing this regularly and getting better. And every single time we hit the gym, we're hitting 150 easily. Who knows, bro? Like maybe we might be back in Miami 3 months from now, 5 months from now, and we're hitting 300. I don't know, right? Isn't it so crazy?
And then you know, like we're going for the pull-up record next.
Yeah, we're going for the pull-up record, and there's just levels to it, bro. Like we were talking, you know, in fitness, in business, in life in general. There's just levels to everything, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think you nailed it, right? Like when I first started online fitness coaching, I didn't believe it was possible to make a dollar online, let alone make a living online. And that was the biggest obstacle I had to overcome, was not believing that it was possible, like you were saying. And if we think about it, like belief dictates effort. Because if you believe for a fact you're going to make it, like you're going to hit that 150, then you're not going to go into it sheepishly like, oh, am I going to do this? Am I not going to do this?
For sure.
And I think it goes back to like success leaves clues. Yesterday at that Gymshark Miami event, we were asking all these influencers with massive audiences, hundreds of thousands, if not millions, how do you grow? What do you recommend for someone just starting on social media to build their brand, to build their audience and business? What was the number one thing they said?
Consistency.
Consistency.
It's consistency.
Consistency, right? And that is the same process behind business. And the pull-ups, by the way. Right? Because what did I tell you? I didn't believe I could do 100. I'm like, bro, I don't know. I don't think so.
So I think this goes to show the importance of surrounding yourself with other people that challenge you, that push you, right? Because in a way, like you borrowed the belief from me, right? Where I was like, Irslan, you can do 100. You're like, no, bro, no, I'm not. I don't even want to try that. I don't want to even attempt that, right? Like we were talking about it. I was like, Irslan, we're gonna hit a crazy back and by workout, and then I was like, 100 pull-ups to start, and you were like, 100 pull-ups, like no, no. You flat out told me, no, I'm not doing that, but we still did it anyways. And in a way, like I was so confident in you, where I was like, dude, you can do it. You can do it. You can do it. You can do it. And even during the process, you didn't even believe in yourself. But after you hit that 30 mark and so on, you're like, hey, it ain't too bad. And sometimes I feel like we just need that push in our lives, right? So you want to reflect who's in your corner, bro. Who's in your corner to push you, motivate you, inspire you every single day.
Yep.
Whether it's a friend, it's a coach, it's a significant other. Like, you got to have people in your life to push you. You know what I'm saying?
100%.
And when you have people to push you, you can just borrow the belief of other people, right? Even if you don't have that belief in yourself. That's a way to hack life, I think.
Yeah.
Right?
And
would you agree?
You nailed it, because that's what happened when we started our businesses, at least for me.
Yeah.
It's like my mentors, Vince, Corby, Frank,
Yeah.
believed in me so much that I started believing in myself.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what really coaching is at its core. It's that there's these voices in our heads.
Yeah.
There's like this positive voice that says, the angel on your shoulder, you can do it.
Yeah.
But there's also that negative voice, that devil on your shoulder that's like, you can't do this at the same time.
Yeah.
And it's like one might be stronger than the other.
Yeah.
And when you have somebody pouring into your life and like being that angel on your shoulder long enough, at some point your own angel takes over.
Yeah.
And that's where you begin leading your life from.
Yeah.
And you're no longer leading your life from that scarcity mindset, that fear-based mindset that says, I can't do it.
Yeah.
Right? And if you're right, like that is a hack, because oftentimes, how many times do we hear like, you got to believe in yourself?
Yeah.
But it's like, yes, and you can also have other people believe in you and borrow their belief.
Yeah. Because if you think about it, bro, like if it just were yourself doing the pull-ups, would you believe that you can do 100?
I don't know. I wouldn't even start, bro.
You wouldn't even start.
I wouldn't even start.
And I feel like that applies to business, because when it comes to building a successful business, like online business, like specifically, right? Like people look at these numbers like, oh, like 10K a month. Like, how the heck do I even do that? Right? It's like they don't even start because it's so daunting. They're like, dude, like I don't even know if I can do this. And they don't even start in the first place, right? But if you have a coach that does like 20K a month, 30K a month, and they're like, hey, you can hit 10K. You're like, oh, I can? Really? You believe in me? It's like, as long as you're willing to work hard and put in the reps, it's like, whoa, okay, I'll trust you. And if you trust the process with someone that's already been there and done that, it makes it so much easier, right? Because now you're able to borrow the belief, the confidence, and the experience of a mentor or person that's further ahead of the journey than you. And now you're able to make progress in that direction. And now you're actually able to have the confidence to even start, right? Because most people don't even start in the first place. But in this regard, if you have someone pushing you, be like, yo, you can hit that first 10K a month, bro. You can hit that first 10K a month. I believe in you. Bro, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
It's going to happen. As long as you surround yourself with the right types of people that can push you there, right?
Yep.
Like for me, I know I've done 150 pull-ups before. So it's like, I know that I'm capable of doing that, right? But for you, you never did more than 30. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to push you. I'm going to make sure you get 100. But then we ended up doing 150, right? And in the same way, it's like you pushed me in terms of business, right? It's just like, bro, like raise your standards, push, right? And keep on growing, keep on leveling up. And I feel like it's just like that mutual push that we have for each other.
Yeah, man,
Yeah.
100%. I think it goes back to what you said, like
Yeah.
having those people in your corner,
Yeah.
like making sure you're surrounding it. Because, bro, like even up until, you said 30, bro, for me it was up until like that 44 or 50.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
But then after, I was like, oh, I got this.
Yeah.
I got this.
Yeah.
It's like your belief in me, and because I put in the reps and I
Yeah.
trusted that process
Yeah.
that you were guiding me through,
Yeah.
got to a point where I began to believe in myself. So much so that I was like, I'm going all the way. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not stopping now.
Yeah.
Like, I can do this.
Yeah. Initially, we were doing like 12 pull-ups, 10 pull-ups,
Yeah.
like every single set.
Yeah.
But then towards the end, it was like 4, 3,
Yeah.
3. It's like we were trying to like milk every single pull-up that we could with good form, obviously.
Yes.
Right? And as we kept on doing that, it took a lot more time, right? It took a lot of time because, you know, we got fatigued, like heavily. And I think that applies to business sometimes too, right? Sometimes it's just like you feel like you're putting in so much work. You're putting in 4 hours a day. And then you're like, bro, like this is so much work. You have a mentor that's like, hey, bro, put in 5, put in 6 hours, put in 7 hours, put in 8 hours. Sometimes you might have to put in 10 hours, right? It's just like when you go from 5 to 10, it's like, are you crazy? Are you like, are you wild? And it was like, what? Why? How? Like,
Yeah.
I can't imagine myself doing that. But when you have someone going through this journey with you, it's like, hey, it makes the process more fun.
Mm-hmm.
It makes it more enjoyable, and you know you're in the trenches with someone. It's
Yep.
like, hey, like my coach, my mentor is like, hey, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this. Push, 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 grow, 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 right? And I feel like the beautiful thing about business sometimes is too, right? Like you can start delegating out,
Yep.
right? That's the
100%.
beautiful thing.
Yep.
Fitness, you can't. Fitness, you can't delegate anything out. You got to put in the work, like raw strength, like grit, everything. Like you got to put it in, right? But with business, there's like certain strategies, tactics, delegation, right? In the very beginning, as a beginner, you're gonna need to put in that work.
Yep.
But you know, when you start playing at higher levels, guess what? We start delegating, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
You're hiring team members, exactly. First,
Yeah.
you're putting on the marketing hat, you're putting on the trainer hat, you're
Yeah.
putting on the sales hat, you're putting on all these different hats.
Yeah.
But then eventually you can start being like, here, take this hat, take this hat, take this
Yeah.
hat, and then you're really focusing on your zone of genius and like what you're best at.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It takes time, right?
Yep.
It takes time because, you know, like, I don't want you guys to think it's like, oh my gosh, like, you know, like, we don't work as much anymore, right? But
Yeah.
it's just like, we just work smarter now.
Yeah.
And I feel like the game of business becomes a little bit easier once, like, you get past that, like, beginner phase.
Yeah.
Right?
100%.
Because beginner phase is tough, bro. It's tough.
Yep.
It's really difficult, right? Because it's like, you're learning how to post content. You're learning about your voice.
Yep.
You're learning about your messaging. You're learning about sales. You're learning about marketing. You're learning on how to deal with clients. Good clients, bad clients. You know, it's like clients that give you a lot of headaches and all that stuff. It's like you got to deal with every single thing. And there's going to be so many times where you just want to throw in the towel, bro. Because you're like, bro, I'm putting in 7, 8, 9, 10 hours of work. And sometimes you might not see the fruits of your labor. Very beginning stages of you building your business, like how did you get past those times where you were like, bro, like I don't see the fruits of my labor. I just want to quit. I want to throw in the towel.
Yeah.
What was your mindset like in order to like surpass that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So when you're first starting anything, I like to think of it like a rocket ship,
Yeah.
right? Initially, it takes so much activation energy
Yeah.
for the rocket to break through Earth's gravitational pull.
Yeah.
But once it does, it breaks into a higher law of aerodynamics.
Yeah.
And then it's in space and it's floating.
Yeah.
And it takes nowhere near the same amount of energy. And now it's going thousands of miles an hour.
Yeah.
And so it's very similar when we're starting anything, whether it's your business, fitness, relationship, you name it. Initially, it takes a lot of
Yeah.
work. For me, Ray, I didn't have that thought of,
Yeah.
oh, I gotta quit. Should I go back? Because
Yeah.
I truly didn't have anything to fall back on.
Yeah.
Right? I was an in-person trainer. I had just shifted online. I had to make this work.
Yeah.
There was no other alternative.
Yeah.
And so I posted every day 4 times a day.
Yeah.
And I would DM 20 people a day. I would add 30 people a day. I started with less than 200 friends on Facebook. And within my first 90 days of doing this, offering free trials, hustling, I made my first $10,000 cash collected month.
Yeah.
And that broke so many limiting beliefs for me.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important to have those quick wins and put in a lot of initial effort to see those quick wins.
Yeah.
Because then you don't have to wrestle with that conversation.
Yeah.
Right? By the way, those conversations come later too.
Yeah.
Right? They just change form. Even when
Yeah.
you're at these higher levels, man, like now, because you can technically fall back on something, you have the financial resources and everything. Like, man, should I be doing this? Should I be doing something else?
Yeah.
That's when I have those conversations. But then the answer is, for me, I have found is have that goal of knowing exactly where you're going,
Yeah.
when you want to get there by, and having a powerful enough reason and why behind
Yeah.
why you're doing it.
Yeah.
Like for me, it was like, I cannot go back to in-person training.
Yeah.
Like even to this day, that's that motivational push for me. Like I cannot go back to in-person.
Yeah.
I cannot give up my location, time, financial freedom.
Yeah.
I refuse to do that.
Yeah.
Like I will not go back to trading my time for money. I'm
Yeah.
not going to do that.
Yeah.
Right? So even to this day, that pushes me.
Yeah.
And it's like a driving force for me.
Yeah.
So I think it's having a why that you're so connected with, having a goal you're so connected with, and then being willing to do massive amounts of work,
Yeah.
posting 3-4 times a day, just really doing everything you can to make that mission,
Yeah.
that vision that you have into a reality.
Yeah, absolutely. And it kind of reminds me of the analogy that I give to all my clients, right? It's just like building massive momentum, right? And I was telling someone yesterday, even one of my clients, right? Like while we were driving in the Uber, I was like, bro, Like, there's absolutely no way that in a week that you can have 0 wins. When you build massive momentum in your life, it's kind of like the analogy of a train, right? How dangerous is a train when it's moving at 0 miles per hour? It's not gonna do anything.
Yeah.
It's not gonna do anything. Like, 0 miles per hour is like, dude, nothing's gonna happen. But how dangerous is the train that's going at 70 miles per hour, 80 miles per hour, 100 miles per hour, 150 miles per hour, right? It's so dangerous that it's gonna take anything in its path, right? It's gonna push through any roadblock, any hurdle, any obstacle. And I think that's why, like, I heavily value taking massive action, because when you build so much massive momentum in your life, you're gonna push through those barriers. You're gonna push through those roadblocks. You're gonna push through those doubts in your mind. It's like, can I do this? Can I do this? Can I do this? Should I keep on doing this, or should I just throw in the towel, right? Because there's so many times when I didn't take massive action in my life and my income started dipping down. And I was like, man, like, should I quit? Should I throw in the towel? Should I not do this? Man, you know, but I started thinking about, am I taking massive action? And I thought about it and I reflected upon that. It's like, I'm not. So I can't be mad at myself, right? But once I started taking massive action again, I didn't have those thoughts. I never have those thoughts when I'm taking massive action every single day. But if you're not taking massive action, then you're gonna start having doubts, insecurities come up, you know? These thoughts where it's like, man, am I good enough? Should I keep on doing this? Should I switch to something else? And it's like, should I go back to in-person training? Should I go corporate? Should I just get some stability in my life?
Our mentors will often share with us, like, entrepreneurship is a roller coaster.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So a couple things, right? So by the way, like, we were talking with Ben Francis yesterday, founder of Gymshark, UK's youngest self-made billionaire. Even he had those moments where he was like, I wanted to quit. And there was times where he was thinking, should I just go back to university? Should I just go back to getting a job? And so even if you are taking massive action, those thoughts don't go away. They're still going to be there.
They always stay.
And that is the dragons that you gotta slay.
For sure.
Right? Like Phil Heath, I had a chance to speak with him and ask him a question. And I asked him, what's that champion mentality that helps you become #1 in the world over and over again? And he said, you have this whisper of wanting to do something in your life, and simultaneously you have another whisper that says you can't do it. And conquering that inner bully is the opportunity for greatness. And that resonated so strongly with me, because you have these inner bullies in your life and they never go away. They just change form. So in the beginning, I didn't deal as much with that inner bully because I took massive action, because I was in massive momentum, and I was operating excuse me, at a frequency where it didn't catch me. Those thoughts were like way below. Like, I was too high up for them to catch me. But then at some point, when you start reaching this level of success and you begin to not do those basics that help you get there in the first place, then those like thoughts catch up to you. Right? And then it's like, what helps me in those moments of like, dang, like, should I be doing this? Should I do something else? And all that, and these ups and downs, is remembering what my goal is, remembering the vision and why I'm doing this, and reconnecting with my goal, reconnecting with my why. And then this is another thing I learned from Phil, is aligning my actions with that person that I'm visualizing as the greatest version of myself. Are my actions aligned with that person? And if they're not, I need to make sure those actions are being aligned with that person.
For sure.
It's like, what does a $10,000 per month fitness coach do every single day? Am I doing those things, yes or no? Right? If I'm doing those things and I have the belief that I'm borrowing from my mentors, I got a vision, I know why I'm doing it, you know, I like to say there's no guarantees in life, right? Like, we're on a spinning planet, floating in galaxies millions of miles away. There's no guarantees, but there are probabilities. And I'm radically increasing the probability of success when I have a goal, I have a vision, I know why I'm doing it, I have mentors that believe in me more than I even sometimes believe in myself. I'm cultivating that belief, and then I'm taking massive action every single day. I'm going to give myself that best chance at achieving that goal, and at making sure that I also want to share one thing with that as well, is that's the mindset piece of it. But there's also a strategic, tactical piece of it as well. It's like, are you building your monthly recurring revenue? Are you doing things that are systematizing your business? Or are you building like a fad diet business where you lose a bunch of weight and then you gain it back, where you make a bunch of money and then next month it's dry? Like, are you putting in systems into your business that are going to make it more likely for you to, you're still going to experience roller coasters and ups and downs, and those are normal, but that are at a higher level, right? Like, we're never going to get rid of our problems, but what we want to do is get better problems, just like our clients, right? They're not going to get rid of their problems, but guess what? What happens is when you lose 30 pounds, now your clothes don't fit. Now you got to buy a brand new wardrobe. That's a good problem, right? And that's what we're aiming for. It's like, we're aiming for a higher level roller coaster ride. We're aiming for a higher level up and down. We're like, if you've ever been to Six Flags, we don't want the kiddie rides. We want King to Ka, right? We want to go to the top.
Goliath.
Exactly, right? We want those level problems of like, dang, like, where should I invest all my money? And like, dang, like, what should I do? Like, I have all of these different skill sets. Like, I'm great at content. I'm great at sales now. I'm great at business. I'm great at fitness. It's like, I can make a business out of all those. It's like choosing one. Oh, that's a new problem, right? And so it's like, it's an up and down, but it's a higher level up and down. So it's both. It's like that mindset aspect of it, momentum, being in momentum, taking action, having that vision, understanding your why, having mentors, people around you, a support system, but also the strategic component of it is like putting those systems into place to make sure that you are having these higher level problems.
You have to first become the person, right? But sometimes for the beginner, it's like, how do I become that person? Like, because everyone could have the belief like, oh, I'm going to hit 10K a month. I'm going to hit 10K a month. But then it's kind of like you were talking about, like the action steps and the strategies and the tactics. How are you going to get there, right? And I feel like that's why it's so important to get a coach and mentor.
100%.
Like, I wouldn't be where I am today. You wouldn't be where you are today. We wouldn't have even met, right? If we didn't invest into a coach, a mentor, right? That showed us the path. And I always tell every single person I train, it's consistency times having the right game plan times patience equals your outcome, right? Because you can be consistent, but if you have the wrong game plan, over long periods of time and having patience, you might get a little bit of results. You do like tricep, like rope push downs like this, right? You're doing completely wrong. You can show up to the gym 7 times a week, but you're not gonna do anything great. You know what I'm saying? That's the problem with having the wrong game plan. Because you can be such a hard worker, but if you have the wrong game plan, over long periods of time, you're not gonna find that much success. But if you're a hard worker, paired up with having the right game plan, paired up with having the right mentor, coach, that's going to support you, push you, motivate you, lay down the game plan of exactly what you need to do step by step. And if you just simply implement that over long periods of time, bro, it's just like you see massive success in your life. And I feel like that applies to fitness, that applies to business, right? Every aspect. Flip side too, it's like you can have the best game plan, right? You can have a mentor, you can have a coach, and you can pay thousands and thousands of dollars to get a coach and mentorship and get the game plan. But if you're not willing to put in the work and the consistency, you're also not going to see the results as well.
It's both.
Right? It's both. You need to have both.
Yeah. It's like, it reminds me of that analogy of like, no matter how driven you are, if you go looking for a sunset running east, you're never going to get there. You got to circumnavigate the whole globe before you get there. It's going to take you a very long time. And you might not ever get there because the sun sets in the west, right? However, if you have a mentor and a coach and you have that game plan, then you're going to be at least going in the right direction. And here's the thing I have found is that unsuccessful people, trainers, coaches, you name it, ask how. Successful coaches, successful people don't ask how, they ask who. Who has already done it? Who can I go to? Who can I talk to? I know what I want. Now, who has it? Who can I learn from? And that's what I discovered in my own life is like, what do I want? Who has it? Let me go ask them. Because they already know the how.
For sure.
I don't have to reinvent the wheel here.
Exactly. You don't have to go through the trial, the errors, like, oh my gosh, like, should I do this? Should I do that? Like, you're not going to know exactly where to go, right? But having the right who allows you to have a streamlined focus. Be like, hey, I'm going down this path. this path is the path to success. You've done it before. I'm going down this path, right?
Yeah.
And that's what coaches and mentors do,
Yeah.
right? They guide you on the right path. Because
you compress these decades into days.
yeah, exactly. And that's why like I always tell my clients to read books, because it's kind of like when you think about it, these guys that have accomplished massive success in whatever whatever areas that they're in, whether it's fitness, health, relationships, like their spiritual walk, business, whatever it is, they are experts at whatever they do, and they're compressing all their knowledge into a 200-page book that you can read in a couple hours, right? Think about that. That's so crazy. That's why, like, when I was 19, bro, I was reading book after book after book after book. Like, I probably read like 200 books when I was 19 because I was so fascinated with this idea, right? And I think what really inspired me was John Wooden. He was talking about like mentorship, the importance of it, right? If you have direct mentors, like one-on-one coaching, right? Like people that you're able to talk to, that's a form of coaching. That's a form of mentorship. But there's also indirect mentorship as well. Very similar to what we're doing right now. Like you guys could be listening to this podcast episode, this YouTube episode, and you're like, bro, like I'm learning so much. This is the power of indirect mentorship as well. Like you don't need to talk to us directly, but through listening to our videos, through listening to like what we talk about, what we share online, all of these things, it's a way for you to learn as well, right? And there's two aspects of it, right? Direct and indirect mentorship. And when you're able to have that, you're able to know it's like, hey, like I can get one step closer to my goals, to my dreams, to my visions, if I just listen to people that already have what I want to accomplish.
Yeah.
Right? And it's very similar to the analogy that I always give to my clients as well, right? It's like, imagine if you are driving from Chicago to Toronto. If you don't have Google Maps, you don't have Apple Maps, you don't have like a physical map, how are you gonna get there? How are you gonna get there, bro?
And by the way, not to mention all the roadblocks on the way of like people getting pulled over, which I experienced from Florida to New York driving, right, in Virginia. And so it's like not to mention all the obstacles, all the roadblocks, anticipating, because like we've not only gone through that, we've been through it so much so where we can tell you with nuanced anticipation of like, yo, you're gonna hit a roadblock here.
Exactly.
And like, yo, at $10,000 a month, you're gonna start feeling strapped for your time, and this is where you're gonna really start delegating. And like, we could literally guide you because we've done it and we've helped other people do it. So we know those roadblocks ahead of time. Not only the path, but we know the terrain as well.
Like the coaches and mentors will know everything that, you know, it's like you're gonna experience on your path, right? So in a way, like you drove from, you know, it's like Florida to New York. Right, so thinking about it, it's like Virginia. You know, it's like you gotta freaking speed to take it because of that. Right, but now
I got put in handcuffs.
So, like with that, right, being said, if anyone wants to drive from Florida to New York now, you can be like, hey, when you stop in Virginia, make sure you go slow. I know you want to go fast in your business, in your life, whatever, but during this time, you want to take it slow. Take it slow, take it steady,
100%.
right? Make sure that you're just going smoothly.
And you know what's funny? That is the same advice I wish I had when I was hitting $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a month. Is like, I wanted to go to 100. And that mindset in that moment would have served me so well to, yo, slow down. Stabilize. Like, how cool would it be to do this again next year?
Absolutely. And I feel like even with like those like months of like hitting record months, that's all great and all, but for me, bro, like I believe in having like a balanced lifestyle, right? Making sure that you're working on all areas of your life, right? Because sometimes when we strive for like these crazy things in our lives, what are we willing to sacrifice, right? And we've seen a lot of mentors, a lot of coaches of ours, you know, fall down because of those reasons, hitting those new records, sacrificing their health, their relationships, you know, time with their wives, kids, and their friends, their family, to get to this milestone, right? So I guess, you know, like I would love to have a conversation about that too. Like, what does it mean to have success in all areas of life, not just one, right? Because I was telling like one of my clients, I was like, bro, I quite honestly don't respect the 7-figure entrepreneur, 8-figure entrepreneur, like that billionaire, if he treats his wife like crap at home, right? I don't respect the guy that's like, he has all this money, but then he's a blob, right? He doesn't carry himself well, right? Like, I don't respect that guy either. Like, at the foundational piece, like, I respect everyone, right? But it's just like that, like, I don't know how you explain it. It's just like that respect.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Where
when I look at another dude, when he's working on all areas of his life, he has a great relationship with his kids, his wife, his family, right? His friends, right? You know, he's working on his health, his fitness. He's working on his business, right? He's happy, he's thriving. And that's the guy that I respect, bro. It's like he's serving at church, he's in his communities, he's loving on other people. I'm like, bro, like this guy, he's doing everything that I want to accomplish.
Yeah.
Right? And I respect that guy so much.
100%.
So,
bro.
yeah, would love to have a conversation on that aspect too.
Yeah,
right?
I think it goes back to what Ben Francis was saying.
Yeah.
How, and there was a gentleman emceeing, the chief officer of brand for Gymshark was emceeing a Q&A. C-Bum, who's 6-time Mr. Olympia of Classic Physique, was having with Ben Francis, founder of Gymshark. And one thing Ben Francis and C-Bum both have in common is they're putting their family first. And that's what the MC was saying. He was like, hey, if you think about it, what are Ben and Chris talking about most right now? Family. And guess what? That's something that 80% of you guys like, that's something that you already have in your life.
For sure.
And so you have 80% of everything a billionaire and the #1 bodybuilder in the world have. You have 80% of what they have already. If you have good relationships, you have family, you have people that care about you that are in your corner. And so it's like making sure you're spending time and investing into those relationships is so important, to your point.
Exactly.
And so, like, the way I look at it is just like in business, it's a value exchange. It's a relationship. That's what business is at its fundamental level. Well, that's the same way your faith, that's the same way your finances, that's the same way your relationships, all these family, all these different areas, fitness, that's how they operate. Well, if you invest time, money, energy, resources into these areas, if you go to the gym, if you eat healthy, if you spend time with your spouse, if you're present, if you spend time in the Word, if you spend time praying, you're going to cultivate these areas and you're going to have a positive value in these areas in your life. However, if you don't invest that time, that energy, that resource into these areas, they're going to begin to have a negative value in your life, and you're going to be in a deficit. And one of the things that I've heard from Dan Martell, who's the author of Buy Back Your Time, that I loved is it's okay to over-index on your strengths, but at the same time, you don't want to let your liability become a weakness. You don't want your liability to become a blind spot or a deficit. So it's like right now we have our cameras here, right? It's like, bro, we don't have a videography company. We have like a Sony A7 camera, we got the lens, we got our Rode mics, right? But like, bro, we're good enough at these areas so that it's not a deficit and a weakness.
For sure.
But we're not like experts in these areas. But there are key areas in our life where we can't do that. Fitness, family, faith, finances. You cannot be like, okay, it's okay if this is just like coasting. You got to actively work on building all of these areas. Otherwise, they're going to slip. And so for me, what helps me put everything first is making sure first and foremost, I'm putting God first. Because God is my source of my strength. He's the source of my resources. One of the things I've learned from my mentor is that it's His to give. It's mine to manage. Everything I have is a gift from God. I'm here to do His will. That's #1 in my life, putting God first. And I put this literally on my schedule. Like, this is the priority of my day. God first. Then fitness. Taking care of myself so I can pour into everything and everybody else. Because you can't pour from an empty cup. So taking care of my fitness, right? And I literally do this first thing in the morning. Pray, work out, then finances. Making sure that I'm on top of my business. I'm pouring into my business. And then family. Making sure I'm spending my time with my family. I'm like investing into those relationships. I'm strengthening those bonds. And like for me, like putting it in that order right now helps me so much. But by the way, it can just depend on what season of life you're in. For you, you might do faith first. You might do family, then finances, then fitness.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be in that order.
Yeah.
But I think every day you should be improving in every area that we just
Absolutely.
mentioned, the 4 F's.
Absolutely. Making sure that everything is systemized in your schedule is so important, right? And I feel like I live and die by the schedule, right? It's like sometimes I don't want to do it. Like sometimes I don't want to hit the gym. Sometimes I don't want to read my Bible. Sometimes I don't want to listen to worship music. But it's in the schedule. So I just got to do it. I just know that if it's in there, I got to do it and prioritize it and making sure that I put in little bits of effort every single day so that I don't lose that momentum.
Yeah. And,
Right.
and can we talk a little bit about that?
Yeah.
How do you not lose momentum once you have it?
I feel like it's always different in life because there's times where we are traveling, but I've learned in the past when I travel, it's kind of like not losing momentum in terms of fitness. That's why we booked out a gym. We went to Boxer. We went to this fitness event, right? We made sure our fitness was in check, right? So like in terms of everything else, right? It's like in terms of business, it's like we're still checking in on our clients. We're still checking on the people that we love, right? It's like I'm still checking in on my wife, see how she's doing, right? Even on vacation and traveling and doing all these fun things, it's like you still got to prioritize these things in your life. And I think that's one of the best ways to keep that momentum going, right? Even when you're traveling, even when you're on vacations. Because I see a lot of people, you know, they go on vacation. They're just like, you know what? Like, I don't want to take care of my fitness anymore. I'm just going to free for all. You know, I'm just going to do whatever I want, live it up, have fun and all this stuff. I tell my clients, bro, it's like, you can have fun, but have boundaries, right? So we are back. It cut off at 9:30 because my alarm rang. So it cut off a good portion of our video, but to
Well, like
leave,
17 minutes?
or we're like, yeah, we cut off 17 minutes into our conversation, but we ain't gonna let that hold us back.
You know, the cool thing is when this is like the process of entrepreneurship. It's
Yeah.
very similar, right?
Yeah.
It's like there's 2 ways we can look at this.
Yeah.
It's either like, dang, we just wasted 17 minutes.
Yeah.
Or you could be like, yo, we just got 17 minutes of practice.
Yeah.
And we did it once,
Yeah.
and now we can do it again, and we have an
Yeah.
opportunity to do it better.
Yeah.
Because of what we learned.
Yeah.
And this is going to be something that we can look at in the future, like, hey, wow, like, could you imagine we were doing a podcast with, like, somebody else,
Oh yeah.
and, like, we didn't have that knowledge of, yo, let's make sure we don't have an alarm set.
Yeah.
So, like, but this is failure.
Yeah.
And, like, there is no failure, there's only learning.
Yeah.
You win or you learn, and this
Yeah.
is just a learning moment.
Exactly.
It's like, dang, my camera wasn't recorded. Oh, well,
Yeah.
I just gotta make sure, I check to make sure my camera's recorded.
Exactly.
It's just a learning moment, right?
It's just a learning
and
moment.
then you learn from it, and then
Yeah.
you just, that's it, you move.
Yeah, and I feel like that's entrepreneurship, right? It's like you just win or you learn from it.
That's it.
There's no failure, right?
And I learned that from Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Right? And by the way, like, we know these concepts, and
Yeah.
you guys know these concepts. There's
Yeah.
no failure. There's only winning or learning.
Yeah.
But the second you hear it from somebody like Dwayne "The Rock"
Yeah.
Johnson, the second you hear, hey, if they can do it, why can't you?
Yeah.
And you're like, a billionaire thinks that?
Yeah.
Ben Francis actually said that from his mouth?
Yeah.
It's like, all right, now I believe it. And
Yeah.
like sometimes you got to hear the same thing over and over and over, and in a different way from a different person.
Yeah.
Bam, and it
Yeah.
finally clicks.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, now I'm gonna take action on it
Yeah.
because like knowledge, as we both know, is
Yeah.
not always power. It's
Yeah.
potential power.
Yeah.
It only becomes true power when you act on it.
Yeah.
And sometimes you got to get it into your nervous system of like, okay, I got it.
Yeah.
And now like I'm going to act as if that belief is true, right?
Yeah. When you think about life, you can either see life in 2 different lenses, right? One is optimism, and one is, you know, being pessimistic, right? We could have been pessimistic about this opportunity that we had, you know, filming this podcast, YouTube video, and whatever. We can be like, man, should we just throw in the towel? Should we just not do it anymore? It's like, my back's getting a little bit hot, you know, like, man, like, it's so sad, you know, like, we lost 17 minutes of footage, and we can just dwell on that fact. But we're like, nah, like, we're gonna learn from it. We're gonna learn that we're not gonna set an alarm, you know, we're gonna learn that we should probably look at our camera to see that we press record, right? And this is our first time, like, doing this,
Of course.
right? And I think that's a learning lesson in of itself, right? It's like we get practice, we're getting better, and we're kind of like that beginner, right? And every expert was once a beginner themselves, right? And why most people don't start, because they're like, man, I'm not an expert yet. And that holds people back on starting. But the quote that I always get encouraged by is like, man, every expert was once a beginner. You don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great in any aspect of life. Whether you're a beginner in the fitness realm, right? Going to the gym, working out, getting your diet right. You're a beginner, you're gonna suck. Your reps are gonna suck. Your form is gonna suck. You know, your diet's gonna suck. But if you keep on getting better, as you keep on making little progress in the right direction, you're gonna pick up one thing that you're gonna learn from your coach. You're gonna pick one thing that your friend told you in terms of your macros, whatever it may be, right? And you're learning through this process, and as you keep on developing that every single day, you soon will be an expert once you put in that 10,000 hours, right? In fitness, in business, in faith, relationships, anything, right? You don't have to be great to start, but you have to start if you want to be great in anything that you do in your life, right? And I feel like that's so important for any beginner to hear, right? And in a regard, you guys might be watching this podcast and be like, oh, you know, it's like there's two like successful online fitness coaches, business coaches. It's kind of like, dude, we're beginners to podcasting. We're beginners to, you know, it's like YouTube videos and all these things. And it's a learning process. No one's a master of everything, right? And I feel like we always have this mentality where it's like, hey, you just gotta keep on learning, keep on learning, keep on learning. Fail forward, right? Fail forward, make those mistakes. All right, you know, I know not to set that alarm again. I know we should press record, right? Instead, I know we should probably be checking in more often, you know, so that we don't make the same mistakes. And now I'm like, okay, you guys might be watching this and not avoid these mistakes for yourself. Right? 100%. This is coaching and mentorship in of itself. You see us fail. You see us making these mistakes right in front of your eyes, bro. Like, you guys see that, right? And you guys are able to learn from it. So if you guys ever think about doing this type of style with your friend, with your buddy, with your coach, with your mentor, with your significant other, whatever it may be, learn from this mistake, bro. Right?
And
it's like, learn from it.
And start somewhere. Take messy action.
Messy action.
We're not mic'd up. We don't have our Shure mics. We don't have our pod stands. Like, we're not like all like lighting. Like, if anything, the sun is pointing this way. The camera should probably be pointing this way. But we're not letting that stop us. We're like, we got a balcony. We got 2 chairs. We got our cameras. Let's make it happen.